Hey guys, today we walk straight into the battlefield you don't see, the one where your future is being decided every single sunrise. Picture it. The world doesn't pause. While you sip your morning coffee, technologies evolve, industries shift, and competitors, people you've never met, are already sharpening their edge. Somewhere, a stranger just learned a skill that will make them twice as valuable in the job market you thought was safe. Another just found a faster way to reach your potential customers before you've even opened your inbox. The clock isn't just ticking, it's already stolen opportunities from you while you weren't looking. The truth: you're either moving forward or being quietly replaced. There's no middle ground. And the scariest part is how subtle the replacement feels. No alarms, no memo. One day, you'll look around and realize the spotlight you once had is gone, handed to someone hungrier, sharper, and more adaptable. That's not drama. That's the rhythm of reality. Most people never see this until it's too late, because comfort feels so much safer than change. Comfort whispers, "You're fine. You've done enough. You've arrived." But comfort is a trap dressed like a reward. It doesn't tell you that while you're relaxing, the people who will outrun you are stacking skills like bricks, building the kind of fortress you'll wish you had when the storm hits. Look at the difference between the two groups. The 99% let the days blur together. Same routines, same habits, same small talk. They protect their old ways like a family heirloom, even when the world has moved on. The top 1%, they hunt discomfort. They see the gap between today and tomorrow, and they close it before anyone else even notices it's there. They're reading reports about technologies their peers haven't heard of yet. They're testing tools that seem unnecessary now, but will be standard next year. They're building skill stacks, so when opportunity knocks, they're not fumbling for the handle. They're already at the door. You have to decide which group you're in, and you have to decide now. Because the rules are simple. Every day, you're either building your advantage or losing it. And if you lose it long enough, you don't just stay where you are, you slide backward. The world doesn't hold your place in line. Think about the last 12 months. Where did your time go? How many hours slipped into scrolling, passive watching, conversations that went nowhere? Now picture if even half of those hours had gone into upgrading yourself, learning a marketable skill, mastering a tool, studying a trend that's reshaping your industry. That's the brutal math. The hours are already spent. The question is whether they bought you progress or dug you deeper into stagnation. And here's a truth most motivational gurus won't say out loud. Talent doesn't save you anymore. In a world where AI, automation, and global competition can produce talent on demand, your advantage is speed of learning and speed of application. The gap between knowing about a change and acting on it is where winners are minted. The dangerous thing is that decline is silent. There's no headline announcing you've been overtaken. It happens in small, almost invisible increments. The client who quietly chooses a competitor. The promotion that never makes it to your desk. The job application that disappears without a reply. You tell yourself it's bad luck. But deep down, you know. You stopped sharpening your blade. If you want to avoid this, you can't just learn when it's convenient. You have to turn education into a reflex, something so embedded in your identity that skipping a day feels wrong, like forgetting to eat. And don't romanticize it. This isn't about inspiration, it's about survival. You're either in the habit of getting smarter every day, or you're in the habit of slowly becoming irrelevant. Here's where most people mess it up. They wait for the perfect moment to start. They think, I'll learn when work calms down. Or, I'll read that book when I have a free weekend. That's like saying you'll start training for a marathon after the starting gun goes off. By the time you're ready, the race is already lost. The top 1% don't wait for time to appear. They steal it back. 10 minutes in the morning for an article, 20 on the commute for a podcast, half an hour before bed for a deep dive course. These aren't grand gestures. They're daily deposits into a compounding account of skill and insight that no one can touch. The reason this works is compounding. A single day's improvement might be invisible, but stack those days for a year, and you'll be unrecognizable to your past self. The trick is not letting the smallness of today's step fool you into thinking it's worthless. The smallest edge, kept consistently, becomes an advantage so massive, others will call it luck. Now ask yourself, what's your edge today? Not what it was last year, not what you think you deserve. What skill are you sharpening right now that would make you untouchable in your field if the economy turned upside down tomorrow? If you can't answer in one sentence, that's your warning sign. Here's a challenge to start tonight. Choose one high-value skill you know would move the needle in your career or personal life, and commit to spending at least 20 minutes on it every day for the next 30 days. Guard that time like it's the last hour of oxygen on a sinking ship. No phone notifications. No, I'll do it later. You either protect it or you're choosing comfort over progress. Remember, there's no drama in the early stages of falling behind. It's a quiet decay. But there's also no loud applause in the early stages of getting ahead. It's a quiet build. And one day, those quiet builds erupt into opportunities that look sudden to everyone else. You'll know they weren't sudden. They were earned in the dark, while the others were scrolling. The game is running whether you join or not. The only question is whether, a year from now, you're explaining to people how you saw the wave coming and rode it, or how you didn't even notice it until it was gone. Time is the one currency you can't earn back, yet most people spend it like it's endless pocket change. You have the same 24 hours as the athlete who dominates their sport, the entrepreneur who scaled their business into millions, the artist whose work you admire. The difference isn't the clock, it's how deliberately they use it, while the average person treats time as something to be filled. The top 1% treat it like a bank account they have to invest wisely before it runs dry. The trap is that time leaks invisibly. 10 minutes of aimless scrolling here, a quick TV episode there, a gossip-laden lunch break. None of these moments feel dangerous alone, but together, they drain your potential like a slow puncture in a tire. And just like a leak, you only notice the damage when you're stranded somewhere you didn't want to be. You can't just manage your time. Management implies keeping it tidy, balanced, polite. If you want to outpace 99% of people, you have to own your time. That means cutting, protecting, and redirecting it like a ruthless investor who refuses bad deals. Every minute must either move you closer to your goals or deliberately recharge you so you can move faster tomorrow. Here's where most people sabotage themselves. They confuse being busy with being productive. A calendar full of meetings, errands, and chores feels like progress. But busyness without intention is just motion without direction. You're paddling hard, in the wrong direction. The 1% measure their days not by hours worked, but by outcomes achieved. They ask, what will I have built, learned, or secured by the end of today that I didn't have yesterday? If the answer is nothing tangible, they change the plan, not the goal. Owning your 24 hours starts with clarity. Without it, your time becomes a landfill of other people's priorities. That's why you need a daily non-negotiables list, not a sprawling to-do list with 20 tasks, but 3 high-impact actions that, if done, will move the needle on your biggest goals. Everything else is secondary, even if it screams for your attention. And here's the ugly truth. The world will constantly try to hijack your hours. Friends who just need a quick favor. Coworkers who dump last-minute tasks on your desk. The seductive pull of apps designed to steal your focus. You must defend your time with the same ferocity you'd defend your home from a break-in. Because in a way, it is a break-in. Except they're not stealing your TV. They're stealing your future. The top performers build guardrails. They block social media during work sprints. They schedule thinking time into their calendars like meetings with a CEO. They turn off non-essential notifications permanently. They decline invitations that don't align with their mission, not because they're cold, but because they know every yes is a no to something more important. One of the simplest but most powerful shifts you can make is adopting time blocking. Instead of letting the day come at you in random waves, you partition it into focused segments. When it's time to learn, you learn. No email checking. No, just real quick errands. When it's time to execute, you execute. This eliminates the cost of constant task switching, which is like starting and stopping a car every 2 minutes. All energy, no momentum. Here's a scenario. 2 people both commit to learning a high-income skill. The first person says, "I'll work on it whenever I get a chance." Weeks go by. They've squeezed in a few half-focused hours. The second person carves out 7 to 7:30 every morning. No exceptions. At first, their progress looks similar. But after 3 months, the second person has banked nearly 50 focused hours of skill building, while the first is still trying to find the time. Multiply that difference over a year, and you're looking at hundreds of hours, enough to completely change a career trajectory. And let's address the excuse everyone loves. I don't have time. 99 times out of 100. That's false. What you mean is, I've chosen other things over this. Brutal? Yes. But it's also empowering. Because if it's a choice, you can choose differently. The parent who builds a business between their kids' naps. The nurse who studies coding on night shifts. The athlete who trains at 4:30 a.m. before a full day of work. These people don't have more hours. They have fewer excuses. Your competitive advantage is not in having more time, but in cutting what doesn't matter, so what does can expand. Audit your day for 1 week. Write down where every hour goes. You'll be shocked at how much can be reclaimed. Then, ruthlessly eliminate or compress the low-value tasks. Can the 1-hour meeting be a 15-minute email? Can the nightly 2-hour Netflix binge be swapped for 45 minutes of learning and an early night's sleep? The magic happens when you start to see time as a portfolio. Some investments give quick returns, like sending an important proposal that lands a client. Others grow slowly, like reading 20 minutes a day to deepen your expertise. Both matter. But here's the catch. Your portfolio can't be filled with junk bonds. If your hours are spent on low-yield activities, you can't be surprised when the results are weak. And don't underestimate micro moments. Waiting in line? Listen to a podcast episode. 10 minutes between calls. Review your notes from yesterday's learning session. The average person treats these slivers as disposable. The top 1% see them as compound interest on their time bank. But owning your 24 hours isn't about packing them with relentless work until you burn out. It's about deliberate balance, scheduling rest as strategically as you schedule effort. The rest must fuel you, not drain you. Scrolling until 1 a.m. isn't rest. It's theft from tomorrow's energy reserves. A focused 20-minute walk in nature is rest. An hour laughing with people who lift you higher is rest. When you shift from time management to time ownership, the quality of your days changes. You stop reacting and start directing. You begin to notice that you're getting more done in 2 focused hours than you used to in an entire distracted day. And when that becomes your new normal, something remarkable happens. The future stops feeling like a distant hope and starts feeling like something you're actively engineering, one block of time at a time. Books are the closest thing you have to a time machine. Inside their pages are decades of someone else's victories, failures, shortcuts, and insights compressed into a few hours of your attention. Yet most people treat reading like collecting souvenirs. They pile up titles, skim a few pages, maybe highlight a quote or two, then put the book back on the shelf like a trophy. It looks impressive, but nothing changes. That's because the goal isn't to read more books. It's to let the right books rewire you. Reading should be like upgrading the operating system in your mind, not just downloading files you never open again. And if you want to stay ahead of 99% of people, you need to move from reading for information to reading for transformation. The difference is massive. Information reading is passive. You take in words, nod along, and maybe remember a statistic or a catchy phrase. Transformation reading is active. You wrestle with the ideas, question them, test them in your life, and discard anything that doesn't hold up under pressure. It's less about finishing the book and more about letting it finish its work on you. Start with intention. Before you even crack the cover, ask, what problem do I want this book to help me solve? If you can't answer, you're probably reading it for entertainment or ego. That's fine if your goal is to relax. But if your goal is growth, pick books that speak directly to the challenges or ambitions in front of you right now. Then, read like you're in a conversation with the author. Don't just highlight, annotate, argue with them in the margins. Connect their points to situations you've lived. If they give an example from business, adapt it to your personal life. If they describe a mental model, sketch out how you'll apply it this week. This is where you start to own the material instead of just renting it. Here's the hack. Slow down. The speed reading craze sounds efficient, but comprehension without application is useless. I'd rather you take 2 months to deeply digest one book and use it to triple your results than rush through 10 books you barely remember. When you slow down, you catch nuances, spot contradictions, and uncover ideas that would have slipped by at 500 words per minute. To cement what you've read, use the teach-back method. After each chapter, explain the key ideas in your own words, out loud, to a friend, or in a journal. If you stumble or can't make it simple, you don't actually understand it yet. Teaching forces you to process the idea at a deeper level, and that's when it sticks. But reading for transformation doesn't stop at understanding. It demands immediate action. The gap between "that's interesting" and "I tried it" is where most people fail. Commit to extracting one actionable step from every reading session, no matter how small. If a chapter introduces a productivity tactic, use it tomorrow. If a biography shares a habit of a successful person, test it for a week. Let me give you an example. Suppose you're reading about negotiation tactics. You learn that anchoring your opening offer can set the tone for the entire discussion. That's interesting. But transformation happens when you walk into your next salary talk and use that principle. adjusting your opening number higher, and watching the ripple effect. Now, the lesson isn't theory, it's part of your muscle memory. Another key to transformation reading is layered learning. When a book blows your mind, don't shelve it forever. Come back in 6 months. You'll notice different ideas because you're a different person by then, with new challenges and perspectives. The top 1% squeeze more value out of a single great book than the average person gets from an entire bookshelf. And don't limit yourself to your comfort zone. The best breakthroughs often come from cross-pollination, applying concepts from one field to another. A marketing principle from an ad executive might revolutionize how you present your personal brand. A philosophy text might sharpen your decision-making in business. Seek out books from outside your bubble and look for ways to graft their ideas onto your world. Now, a warning. Be ruthless about abandoning books that aren't serving you. Time is too precious to slog through a title just to check it off. If it's not delivering value by the first few chapters, put it down. That's not quitting. That's curating. Every book you choose is competing with hundreds of others you could be reading instead. When you shift to transformation reading, you'll notice a strange side effect. Your notes start to matter more than your bookshelves. Your scribbles, diagrams, and summaries become a private library of applied wisdom, distilled, tested, and shaped to fit your life. Over time, this personal archive becomes a force multiplier because you can revisit it whenever you need to make a big decision or break a plateau. Think of it this way. Books are potential energy. Transformation reading is the act of converting that potential into kinetic energy that moves your life forward. Without that conversion, the energy just sits there, gathering dust in a neat row of spines. So here's your challenge for the week. Pick one book that directly addresses your current goals. Block off 20-30 minutes a day to read it. No multitasking, no distractions. After each session, write down the single most actionable idea you learned and apply it before you sleep. At the end of 7 days, review your notes and circle the changes that made a real difference. That's transformation. Do this with 10 books over the next year, and you'll not only stay ahead of the majority, you'll leap so far ahead that people will assume you're naturally talented or just lucky. You'll know the truth. You simply read differently. If books are your deep dives, then podcasts and audiobooks are your portable command center, your pocket university that moves with you. Every walk, commute, or idle moment becomes a classroom. And the professors, some of the sharpest minds alive and dead, distilled into voices you can carry in your ear. But here's the thing. Most people treat this potential goldmine like background noise. They listen while their mind drifts to emails, to-do lists, or that awkward conversation from last week. They absorb almost nothing. The goal here isn't just to fill silence, it's to weaponize it. Every time you press play, you're choosing between mental junk food and mental fuel. And if you're serious about staying ahead of 99% of people, you don't have the luxury of wasted listening. The beauty of audio learning is that it dissolves the excuse of, "I don't have time." You're already commuting, already folding laundry, already jogging. Those minutes are non-negotiable, but what fills them is entirely in your control. Imagine the difference between two people with the same 30-minute commute. One listens to gossip-filled morning radio. The other studies negotiation psychology from a world-class expert. Multiply that difference by 250 workdays, and you've just created a 125-hour gap in expertise without adding a single extra minute to the day. But here's the upgrade most people miss. You have to listen actively. That means being present with the material, even if you're doing something else physically. If you catch yourself zoning out, rewind. If you hear something that makes you think, pause and jot a note in your phone. Treat it like a conversation you care about, not a soundtrack to your errands. One of the most powerful strategies is thematic listening. Instead of hopping between random episodes or titles, choose a theme for the month. Sales, creativity, leadership, mindset. Immerse yourself in that theme across multiple shows and authors. This saturation effect accelerates mastery because your brain starts making connections between perspectives, and repetition drives the concepts deeper. Here's another overlooked tactic. Revisit standout episodes or chapters. Just like with books, your second or third listen will hit differently because you'll be listening with new questions and experiences in mind. I can't tell you how many times a line I barely noticed on my first listen became a breakthrough idea on my second. And don't underestimate the value of curation. The podcast and audiobook space is a noisy marketplace. For every brilliant thinker sharing hard-won lessons, there are dozens of smooth talkers peddling fluff, wrapped in charisma. Vet your sources. Who are they? What have they actually done? Are they teaching from lived experience or just recycling other people's wisdom? Your time is too valuable to waste on empty inspiration that evaporates the moment you take your earbuds out. The real magic happens when you blend your audio learning with immediate micro-actions. Hear a productivity hack? Test it before the day is over. Learn a mindset shift? Apply it in your next conversation. The faster you bridge the gap between hearing and doing, the faster your learning compounds. I've seen this transform careers. A friend of mine used to spend his commutes zoning out to music. I challenged him to swap half of that time for industry-specific podcasts. Within months, he was casually dropping insights in meetings that made his bosses take notice. Less than a year later, he was offered a leadership role, not because he magically got smarter, but because he'd been quietly upgrading his knowledge every single day, while others stayed static. Here's the kicker. The portability of audio means your competition can't see you doing it. They might notice if you're always reading books at lunch, but no one suspects that your music habit is actually a mentorship pipeline from the best thinkers in the world. You can be growing while everyone assumes you're just passing time. To squeeze even more value, use a capture system for your takeaways. This could be a simple note app, a running Google Doc, or even a voice memo you record after listening. The key is to get the idea out of your head and into a place where you can review and act on it. Because ideas you don't capture are ideas you lose, and ideas you lose are opportunities that never materialize. Don't be afraid to mix formats, either. Some concepts stick better when you hear them, others when you see them. If an audiobook is dense with strategy, consider buying the physical or ebook version too. You can listen while moving, then review your highlights later at a desk to lock it in. This dual exposure creates a stronger neural imprint, making the knowledge more likely to stick. And let's get honest about multitasking. Yes, audio learning works while doing physical tasks, but not all multitasking is created equal. Pair listening with activities that require little to no mental bandwidth: walking, cleaning, light exercise. If the task demands focus, like heavy data work, you'll shortchange both activities. Your Pocket University is open 24/7. Professors never call in sick. There's no tuition, no waiting list. But like any education, it only pays off if you show up with intention. The more you treat each listening session as an investment, the faster you'll build an advantage so strong It feels unfair to everyone still stuck in the noise. So here's your challenge. For the next 7 days, replace 50% of your dead audio time, commutes, chores, workouts, with targeted high-value content. Pick one theme, choose 3 sources, and commit to capturing at least one actionable insight per day. Apply those insights immediately. By the end of the week, you'll realize something powerful. The real scarcity isn't time. It's focused attention. And once you control that, you control the pace of your growth. The internet is the greatest open university in human history, and also the biggest distraction factory ever built. YouTube, online courses, tutorials, webinars. You can learn almost anything for free, or for a fraction of what it cost just a decade ago. But here's the brutal truth. Most people are drowning in content, not growing from it. They mistake the rush of discovering a new video or course for the satisfaction of real progress. You've seen it. Someone decides they're going to learn a skill and spends weeks jumping from one playlist to another, binging free resources, bookmarking everything. They feel busy. They feel productive. But ask them to use the skill, they stall. That's because passive consumption without execution is a mirage. The brain confuses the intake of information with the act of improvement. If you want to stay ahead of 99% of people, you need a ruthless filter for your online learning. Step 1. Stop grazing. Randomly clicking whatever pops up in your recommendations is like trying to get fit by wandering through the snack aisle. You'll feel full, but you'll be worse off. Instead, start with a clear target. What exactly do you want to be able to do after this course, video, or series? The clearer your destination, the easier it is to cut out anything that doesn't get you there. And here's the upgrade most learners never make. 1 input, 1 output. For every piece of content you consume, produce something. Watch a design tutorial, create a design immediately after. Take a sales course, use the script on a real call within 24 hours. This simple loop, learn, do, refine, turns theory into skill fast. Without it, you're just a collector of clever ideas. The algorithm is not your friend. It's built to keep you watching, not to make you better. That's why so many learners get caught in related video traps, bouncing from how to write a business plan to morning routine of billionaires to 5 productivity hacks you need now. All good in theory, but together, they dilute your focus into nothing. Be deliberate. If you find yourself 2 videos away from your goal, stop and get back on track. Another power move? Learn in sprints. Pick a narrow skill and commit to 30 or 60 days of focused study and practice. Ignore all other shiny topics. If you want to master copywriting, for example, spend a month deep in sales letters, copywriting courses, and rewriting headlines, not dabbling in SEO, public speaking, and video editing all at once. Depth beats breadth when you're trying to create a competitive edge. There's also a hidden danger in over-preparation. You've probably heard of analysis paralysis. But in the online learning world, it's more like tutorial paralysis. You keep telling yourself you'll start after the next video, the next lesson, the next case study. Meanwhile, someone with half your knowledge but twice your bias for action is already building, selling, and improving in the real world. Knowledge without speed kills momentum. Let me give you a real-world contrast. 2 freelancers decide to learn web development. Person A spends 6 months going through multiple courses, studying frameworks, and watching coding live streams. Person B picks one course, goes through it in 2 weeks, and then immediately starts building small projects for friends and local businesses. 6 months later, Person B has a portfolio and paying clients. Person A has a hard drive full of videos they could recite, but skills they've barely touched. And here's something no one tells you. Most online courses are designed for scale, not for your success. The creators can't tailor the pace or depth to your exact needs. That's why you need to self-direct. Skip sections you've mastered. Replay the ones that trip you up. Add supplemental material if the course doesn't explain something well. You're not a passive passenger. You're the pilot. To protect your focus, build a learning environment. When you sit down for online study, strip away distractions. Phone in another room, browser tabs closed, notifications off. Treat it like a real class. If you wouldn't scroll Instagram in the front row of a Harvard lecture, don't do it here. Respect the process, and your retention will skyrocket. There's also value in community, but only if it's execution-driven. Join forums or groups tied to your learning topic, but filter ruthlessly. If the group is all theory talk and no proof of work, leave. You want peers who share wins, post their creations, and offer constructive critique. That's the digital equivalent of training with athletes, instead of just talking about sports. And don't forget to review. One of the fastest ways to lose online knowledge is to never revisit it. Schedule quick recaps of your key takeaways a week later, then a month later. You'll retain far more, and the concepts will resurface when you need them most. So, here's your 7-day challenge. Pick one skill you've been meaning to learn and choose a single, high-quality course or resource. Commit to finishing it this week. No jumping to other content. After each session, apply at least one thing you learned before you go to bed. By the end of the week, you'll have something real to show for your time, and you'll have broken the cycle of passive consumption. The internet is a treasure chest, but it's also a trap. The people who thrive are not those who touch every shiny object. They're the ones who find a gem, cut it, polish it, and turn it into something they can spend in the real world. If you strip away every trend, every app, every hot topic of the moment, there's a small handful of skills that never lose their value. They're the golden tickets of human capital, the abilities that pay you in every economy, every industry, and every era. Learn them, and you're never at the mercy of luck. Neglect them, and you're one market shift away from scrambling to stay relevant. Here's the first truth. Hard work alone isn't enough. You could put in 12-hour days doing something the market doesn't value and still be broke. What the market rewards is results, and results come from skills that create impact. Skill number 1, communication. This isn't just about speaking clearly, it's about moving people. If you can present ideas so they stick, write words that persuade, and adjust your message to your audience, you have leverage in any situation. Communication is the foundation of leadership, sales, marketing, negotiation, and influence. It's why two people can have the same idea, but only one gets the funding, the job, or the yes. Want to upgrade fast? Practice distilling complex ideas into one sentence anyone can understand. Record yourself explaining something you know well. Then listen back. Did it land clearly, or did you wander? Trim the fat. The more concise you become, the more powerful you sound. Skill number 2. Sales. Don't flinch at the word. Sales isn't about being pushy. It's about connecting a solution to a need. Whether you're asking for a raise, pitching a business, or convincing a partner to back your plan, you're selling. Mastering sales means mastering value exchange, understanding what matters to the other side, and framing your offer so it's irresistible. Here's the hack. Start small. Sell a low-stakes idea to a friend. Pitch a concept at work. Offer to help someone for a fee. Sales skills compound because you get instant feedback. You see what lands and what flops. Over time, rejection stops feeling like failure and starts feeling like data. Skill number 3, problem solving. Anyone can follow instructions. The people who rise are the ones who can walk into a mess and walk out with a plan. This requires critical thinking, resourcefulness, and the ability to separate symptoms from root causes. Most people panic when things go wrong. The problem solver gets curious. What's really broken here? What options haven't we considered? To sharpen this skill, start diagnosing small daily problems instead of reacting automatically. When your phone dies faster than it should, don't just complain. Find out why. Build the habit of digging past the surface. Skill 4, digital literacy. We live in a tech-first world. You don't need to be a programmer, but you do need to know how to navigate tools, data, and platforms that make you faster, smarter, and more effective. This could mean mastering AI tools to speed up your workflow, understanding analytics to make better decisions, or learning how to manage projects with digital collaboration systems. The key is to stay curious and adaptive. Every time a new tool shows up in your field, test it before dismissing it. Early adopters often get a disproportionate advantage simply because they're not afraid to experiment. Skill number 5. Leadership isn't a title. It's the ability to take responsibility, inspire others, and make tough calls. A true leader earns trust, not just compliance. They protect their team, set clear goals, and hold themselves to the same standards they expect from others. Leadership can start small. Volunteer to coordinate a project. Mentor someone newer than you. Or take the initiative when no one else will. Every leadership rep builds confidence and credibility. And here's the secret. People follow certainty. If you can stay calm and decisive under pressure, you instantly stand out. Notice something? These skills reinforce each other. Great communicators make better leaders. Strong problem solvers close more sales. Digital literacy boosts your problem-solving options. Leadership creates environments where communication and problem-solving flourish. Stack them, and you become exponentially more valuable. Most people dabble in these skills when they're forced to. They take a sales workshop because they suddenly need to pitch. They learn leadership principles only after getting promoted. They Google a tech tool when a project's on fire. The top 1% flip the order. They prepare before the demand hits. That's why they're ready when opportunity knocks. So how do you master them? The same way you master anything. Reps, feedback, refinement. Set a 90-day skill sprint for one of the 5. Dedicate at least 30 minutes a day to study and practice. Seek out situations where you can apply the skill under real pressure. Track your wins and your misses. Then move to the next skill and repeat. Here's your challenge. Choose the skill that would create the biggest immediate impact in your life if you improved it by 50%. Then build your next 3 months around it. Block time in your calendar. Read, watch, and listen on that topic daily. Find mentors or peers who are strong in it. Test yourself constantly. Remember, tools change, industries evolve, but these 5 skills are your permanent insurance policy. When you own them, you're never waiting on luck or a safe job. You create your own opportunities, and you can do it in any market. The digital revolution is not coming. It's here, and it's accelerating. Every industry, from agriculture to finance to healthcare, is being reshaped by software, data, and increasingly by artificial intelligence. And here's the reality check. AI will not take your job in the abstract, but a person who understands AI, who knows how to use it to move faster, think bigger, and execute better, absolutely will. Right now, the gap between those who are digitally fluent and those who aren't is widening like a canyon. It's not just about knowing how to use your phone or send an email. That's digital survival. Digital fluency means knowing how to automate workflows, find insights in data, build systems that run without constant babysitting, and harness AI to amplify your output. And AI isn't some distant sci-fi concept anymore. It's in the tools you already use: writing assistants, image generators, chatbots, predictive analytics, personalization engines. The people who treat these as gimmicks will be outpaced by those who treat them as power tools. Imagine two marketers. One spends days manually crafting campaigns. The other uses AI to generate 20 variations in an afternoon, then spends the saved time refining strategy. Who wins? The first step to riding this wave is mindset. Instead of fearing automation, ask, how can I make it work for me? Every repetitive, low-value task in your life is a candidate for automation. Scheduling meetings, sorting emails, generating drafts, analyzing spreadsheets. These are not just chores. They're opportunities to reclaim hours every week. And the time you free up isn't just extra. It's fuel for high-value thinking and creating. But here's the trap. Tech alone won't save you. If you layer AI on top of bad processes, you just automate inefficiency. You still need clear thinking, sharp problem solving, and good systems. AI is a multiplier. It will multiply both your strengths and your weaknesses. That's why the top performers don't just learn tools. They learn how to integrate them into a smart workflow. Start simple. Pick one area of your work or life where you spend more time than you'd like, and explore an AI or digital tool to handle it. If you write reports, try AI summarization and formatting. If you manage projects, look into automated dashboards that update in real time. If you're learning, use AI tutors to quiz you or break down complex topics. The goal is to build comfort and fluency, one application at a time. And don't underestimate the value of data literacy. In the digital age, data is leverage. Being able to read, interpret, and make decisions from data sets you apart from those who still go by gut, feel alone. Learn the basics: how to clean data, visualize trends, and ask the right questions of it. You don't need to be a data scientist, but you do need to be data aware. Cybersecurity is another non-negotiable skill. As you grow your digital presence, you also become a target. Learn how to protect your accounts, spot phishing attempts, use secure passwords, and back up your important data. The person who loses their portfolio to a hack isn't less talented, just less prepared. AI and digital fluency also give you a massive networking edge. You can use AI to research people before you meet them, tailor your outreach messages, and maintain relationships at scale. You can join global communities, collaborate with people you've never met in person, and showcase your expertise to a worldwide audience, all from a laptop. But here's the secret sauce. You don't have to master everything at once. The tech world moves too fast for anyone to know it all. What you can do is build an adaptive learning habit. When a new platform, tool, or AI model drops, don't shrug it off. Explore it. Give yourself an hour to click around. Watch a tutorial. Test a small project. This keeps your curiosity alive and your skills current. Let me paint a picture. 2 years from now, 2 employees are up for a promotion. Both are competent. Both are hardworking. But one has been using AI to automate 40% of their tasks, analyze trends ahead of competitors, and pitch innovative solutions their boss didn't even think of. The other is still doing things the way they've always been done. Who gets the nod? This isn't about chasing every shiny tech trend. It's about positioning yourself so no matter where the digital tide flows, you can swim with it. You don't wait for your industry to tell you what skills you need. You're already developing them. That's how you stay irreplaceable. Here's your challenge. Identify 3 areas in your life or work where AI or digital tools could save you time or increase your impact. Research one tool for each area and commit to testing them in the next 7 days. Track the results. Even if you only keep one, you've built momentum. And momentum in the digital space compounds fast. The future will always belong to the curious, the adaptable, and the ones who see technology not as a threat, but as an ally. You don't need to outwork AI. You need to work with it and let it make you faster, sharper, and more dangerous in the best possible way. Knowledge is worthless until it's used. That's the line nobody likes to hear because it's easier and more comfortable to keep learning in private than to risk testing what you've learned in the open. But here's the hard truth. Untested knowledge is like money you never take out of the bank. It looks impressive on paper, but it's doing nothing for you in real life. If you want to separate yourself from the 99%, you must close the gap between learning and doing. I'm talking hours, not months. You read a chapter in the morning. You apply its principle before lunch. You watch a 20-minute tutorial. You try it out before the day ends. This speed of application is the difference between the endless student and the person whose skills snowball in public view. Think about it. Most people treat learning like storing firewood. They stack and stack and stack, but they never strike the match. Over time, the wood just sits there, gathering dust, while they keep telling themselves they're getting ready. The top 1% treat learning like lighting a series of small fires that combine into a blaze. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They just start. Why does speed matter so much? Because when you act quickly, you get feedback quickly. That feedback is pure gold. It tells you what works, what doesn't, and where your blind spots are. Without it, you risk polishing a useless idea until it's shiny, but still worthless. Let's make this concrete. Suppose you're studying copywriting. You learn about the importance of a powerful headline. If you wait 3 months to finally try it on your website, you've lost 90 days of potential leads. But if you test it today, you could have measurable results by the end of the week. And if it flops, you've still gained insight that moves you forward. The same goes for interpersonal skills. You read about active listening in a book on leadership. Use it in your next conversation that same afternoon. Notice the other person's reaction. Did they open up more? Did you uncover information you would have missed before? That's applied knowledge earning you compound interest. Here's another benefit of rapid application. It cements learning. The brain retains far more when you physically do something with the information. Reading about negotiation is one thing. Sitting across from someone and making an offer is another. You'll remember the tension, the words you used, and the subtle cues you picked up, far better than any highlight in a book. But this requires a mindset shift. You can't be afraid to look imperfect in the beginning. Most people delay action because they don't want to get it wrong. The irony is that getting it wrong quickly is the fastest way to get it right. You can't refine a skill you've never practiced. To make this automatic, adopt the one-action rule. For every block of learning, whether it's a chapter, a lesson, or an hour of research, you must produce a tangible action before you consume more. This action could be small: drafting an email, tweaking a workflow, testing a new app feature. The point isn't perfection. The point is creating a loop where learning feeds execution without delay. Pair this with a visible scoreboard. Track your applied reps instead of just study hours. You'll notice patterns. Maybe you learn a ton in marketing, but apply almost nothing. While in fitness, you execute daily. That awareness lets you fix the imbalance and focus where it matters. And here's where it gets really powerful: public accountability. When you share what you've applied, even in small ways, you invite feedback, collaboration, and opportunity. You might post a test design you made after watching a tutorial, and someone offers to hire you. You might share a productivity hack you tried, and a friend connects you with a project where it could be useful. Application puts you on people's radar in ways silent learning never can. This is how careers leap forward. The person who quietly learns for years without showing results is invisible. The person who learns, applies, and shares in rapid cycles becomes known for momentum. And momentum is magnetic. People want to work with someone who's moving. Let me give you a scenario. Imagine two people take the same online course in entrepreneurship. One spends 6 months tweaking their business plan, waiting for the right moment. The other launches a rough version of their product in the second week, gets customer feedback, makes improvements, and relaunches multiple times. By the 6-month mark, the second person has a paying audience and a tested offer. The first, still in planning mode. You want to be the second person. You want your learning to show up in the real world as quickly as possible, even if it's messy, even if it's imperfect, because every imperfect action you take today makes tomorrow's action sharper, faster, and more effective. Here's your challenge. For the next 7 days, keep a learning ledger. Every time you consume content, book, video, podcast, course, write down the single most actionable takeaway. Then act on it within 24 hours. Don't let one note in your ledger go unused. At the end of the week, review what those actions produced. You'll be shocked at how much more you've moved forward compared to your usual learn now, act someday pace. In the long run, the person who applies even average knowledge relentlessly will outpace the person who hoards expert knowledge they never use. That's the hidden edge. Not just knowing more, but turning what you know into results faster than anyone else around you. Information without retention is like water through a sieve. It feels refreshing in the moment, but nothing stays. You can read a book, watch a course, or listen to a podcast that blows your mind today, and a week later, struggle to recall even the key points. That's why the 1% keep a secret weapon, a personal system to capture, store, and revisit the insights that matter most. I call it the 1% notebook, not because it's literally a notebook, it can be digital or physical, but because it's designed to store the kind of insights that put you ahead of 99% of people who never bother to organize their learning. Here's the first rule. Your brain is not a storage device. It's a processor. It's meant to think, connect, and create, not to hold on to thousands of scattered details forever. When you rely solely on memory, you waste mental energy trying to recall things you could easily have stored in a trusted system. That energy could be spent applying and expanding your knowledge instead. Your 1% notebook is that trusted system. Every time you encounter an idea worth keeping, whether from a book, article, video, conversation, or your own reflection. You capture it. The capture has to happen instantly, because the longer you wait, the more details vanish. The method doesn't matter as much as the habit. You can use a small pocket notebook, a notes app like Apple Notes or Notion, or even a voice recorder on your phone. But here's the upgrade. Don't just record raw quotes or bullet points. Process them as you capture them. Write them in your own words. Add context. Why does this matter? How can I use this? What's the first action I could take? This transforms your notes from passive information into actionable prompts. The second rule: organize for retrieval, not just storage. Random scattered notes are useless if you can't find them when you need them. Group your insights by category: skills, mindset, productivity, health, relationships, finance. Within each category, you can tag notes with subtopics or dates. The goal is that if you're about to work on, say, negotiation skills, you can pull up every insight you've ever collected on negotiation in seconds. The third rule: review deliberately. The 1% don't just collect notes and forget them. They revisit them on a schedule. A quick weekly scan keeps ideas fresh. A monthly deep dive lets you connect old notes to new experiences. Over time, you'll notice patterns. Certain themes, quotes, or strategies will show up again and again. Those patterns are your personal curriculum, guiding you toward mastery in the areas that matter most to you. Think of your 1% notebook as a private treasure map. Every note is a marker on the path toward your goals. The more markers you add, and the more often you retrace the path, the clearer your route becomes. Without this map, you're wandering through life picking up gems and dropping them behind you without realizing it. I once met an entrepreneur who had built multiple businesses without a college degree. When I asked how he learned so quickly, he pulled out his phone and showed me an Evernote library with over 10,000 categorized notes. "I don't just learn," he told me. "I capture. Then I connect. That's my edge." Every time he faced a new challenge, he could instantly pull up every relevant insight he'd ever recorded on that topic. He didn't need to start from scratch. He started from everything he'd already learned. You can supercharge this system by pairing it with your rapid application habit from the previous section. After you act on a new idea, go back to your note and update it with the results. Did it work? Did it flop? What did you tweak? Over time, your notebook becomes not just a library of ideas, but a record of tested strategies, a personal playbook that gets sharper with every iteration. The 1% notebook also has an invisible benefit. It changes how you pay attention. When you know you'll be capturing the most valuable parts of what you consume, you naturally listen and read more actively. You're constantly asking yourself, what's worth keeping here? How does this fit with what I already know? This heightened awareness means you extract far more value from the same material than someone who's just passively consuming. Some people resist this because they think it sounds like extra work. But here's the truth. It's less work than relearning the same concepts over and over because you forgot them. Your future self will thank you every time you open your 1% notebook and instantly recall an idea you would have otherwise lost. Here's how to start. 1. Choose your format: physical notebook, digital app, or hybrid. 2. Set up your basic categories. 3. Commit to capturing at least one insight per day for the next 30 days. 4. Schedule a 10-minute weekly review session. 5. During review, choose at least one note to act on immediately. At first, it'll feel simple, almost too simple. But the real magic happens over months and years, as your notebook grows into a vault of distilled wisdom that belongs entirely to you. Unlike a random bookmark folder or a stack of unorganized PDFs, this is your curated, battle-tested archive. And here's the kicker. In a world where information is cheap and everywhere, the real competitive advantage is organized wisdom. Most people are drowning in unprocessed data. You'll have a streamlined system that keeps the best ideas within reach, ready to deploy at a moment's notice. By building and maintaining your 1% notebook, you turn learning into a permanent asset, one that compounds in value every single time you open it. And when the moment comes to make a big decision, pitch a bold idea, or solve a high-stakes problem, you won't be guessing. You'll be drawing from the deepest well in the room. We live in the noisiest information environment in human history. At any moment, you can pull a glowing rectangle from your pocket and be hit with a flood of opinions, facts, half-truths, and outright lies, all dressed up to look equally convincing. If you can't filter that noise, you'll make decisions based on bad data, and bad data leads to bad outcomes, no matter how smart you are. That's why the top 1% think like detectives. They don't just accept information at face value. They interrogate it. They cross-check it. They ask, who benefits if I believe this? What's missing from this picture? They treat every claim, even the ones that feel good, as a lead that needs verification. Here's the problem. Most people consume information passively, like watching a magician's trick. They see the shiny part and don't question what's happening behind the curtain. The detective-minded person is watching the hands, the sleeves, the table, every detail that might reveal the truth. The first skill to build is source awareness. Not all information sources are created equal. A random social media post and a peer-reviewed study should not carry the same weight in your mind. Yet most people treat them like equals if they fit their bias. The detective asks, where did this come from? How was it gathered? Is this a primary source or a second-hand interpretation? Next is pattern recognition. The detective sees not just isolated facts, but how they connect. For example, if 3 different unrelated sources point to the same underlying trend, that's worth paying attention to, even if it's not breaking news yet. On the other hand, if one source is making a bold claim that nobody else can verify, that's a red flag. Then there's bias detection, in others and in yourself. Every source has an angle, and so do you. Good thinkers ask, am I wanting this to be true because it aligns with what I already believe? Am I dismissing it too quickly because it challenges me? Detectives aren't afraid to prove themselves wrong because they know the truth is more valuable than being right. You also need to separate signal from noise. This is harder than it sounds because noise often comes disguised as urgent, emotionally charged content. Headlines screaming about crises, scandals, or shocking new developments are designed to hijack your attention. But the question is, does this actually matter for the decisions I need to make? The 1% are ruthless here. If something doesn't directly impact their goals, responsibilities, or values, they let it pass. A practical tool for this is the 3 questions test. 1. Is it true? Have I verified it through credible sources? 2. Is it relevant? Does it affect my goals or decisions? 3. Is it actionable? Can I do something with this information? If the answer is no to any of these, the detective moves on. They don't clutter their mental hard drive with useless files. Critical thinking also means embracing the uncomfortable middle ground. We live in a culture that loves hot takes and absolute positions, but the detective knows that reality is often messy and nuanced. Sometimes the answer is, we don't know yet, and that's okay. Acting on incomplete certainty can be more dangerous than waiting for clarity. Let's take an example. Imagine two entrepreneurs hear a rumor that a new regulation will destroy their industry. The first panics, stops investing, and freezes hiring. The second pauses, researches the source of the rumor, reads the actual draft of the regulation, talks to industry insiders, and realizes it's being exaggerated. 6 months later, the first is struggling from self-inflicted damage, and the second has expanded while competitors hesitated. That's the power of thinking like a detective. Technology can help you, but it can also hurt you if you don't use it wisely. Algorithms are built to feed you more of what you already click on. If you're not careful, you'll end up in an echo chamber where you only hear one side of every issue. To break this, you need deliberate diversity in your information diet. Follow sources you disagree with. Read publications from different countries. Watch how the same story is covered by outlets with opposite agendas. The more angles you see, the closer you get to the truth. One habit that will change your life. Keep an evidence log for big decisions. Whenever you're considering a major move, changing careers, investing in a project, launching a product, write down every piece of evidence you've gathered, along with where it came from. This forces you to see whether your decision is based on a wide foundation or a shaky tower of assumptions. Finally, understand that speed is not the enemy of accuracy, but rushing without thinking is. The detective knows when to move fast and when to slow down. In high-stakes decisions, slowing down to verify can save you from irreversible mistakes. In low-stakes situations, overthinking wastes time. Learn to gauge the risk, then choose your pace accordingly. Here's your challenge. Pick one decision you're facing this week, personal or professional, and run it through the detective process. Trace the source of your information. Look for confirming and contradicting evidence. Ask yourself the 3 questions. Then decide. Even if you reach the same conclusion you started with, you'll have built the muscle that will protect you in higher stakes situations. In a world that rewards speed and punishes naivety, the ability to think like a detective is your shield and your sword. It keeps you from being manipulated, helps you spot opportunities others miss, and ensures that when you move with precision. Most people drift through life hoping they'll pick things up along the way. The problem is, what you pick up by accident is rarely enough to get you ahead of the curve, especially now. If you want to be in the top 1%, you can't treat your growth like a casual stroll. You have to treat it like a mission. That means you don't just learn randomly. You build a self-education blueprint that directs every ounce of your effort toward a goal. Think of it like building a custom training program for your mind. An athlete doesn't just go to the gym and wander between machines. They have a plan that works specific muscles in a specific order to get specific results. Your learning should be the same. The first step: define your target. You can't build a blueprint without knowing what you're building for. Ask yourself, what do I want to be world-class at? Not good enough. Not above average. World-class. This could be a skill like negotiation, storytelling, product design, data analysis, or leadership. It could be a hybrid skill set that combines multiple fields in a way that's hard to copy. The clearer you are, the easier it is to design your path. Second, reverse engineer the outcome. Once you know the target, Study the people who are already there. What do they know? What do they practice daily? What milestones did they hit along the way? Look at their interviews, books, podcasts, and bios. This isn't about copying. It's about mapping. You're creating a step-by-step progression that takes you from where you are now to where they are. Third, select your learning mediums. Not all content is created equal for all skills. Some things you can learn effectively through books. Others require hands-on projects, mentorship, or live practice. If you're learning a physical skill like public speaking, you can't just read about it. You need reps in front of real people. If you're learning coding, you need projects that break and force you to fix them. Build your mix intentionally. Books for depth, videos for demonstration, conversations for nuance, and direct action for mastery. Fourth, schedule your learning like a job. The biggest lie people tell themselves is, "I'll fit it in when I have time." You never have time. You make time. Block non-negotiable slots in your calendar for skill development, just like you would for a workout or a client meeting. Protect them. Treat them as sacred. Fifth, layer your skills strategically. This is where most people go wrong. They try to learn 10 things at once and end up shallow in all of them. Instead, focus deeply on one high-leverage skill until you're dangerous with it. Then add the next complementary skill. For example, master persuasive writing, then layer public speaking on top of it. Or master data analysis, then layer automation skills to speed it up. This creates a stack of abilities that's hard to compete with. Sixth, track and measure. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. Keep a log of what you're learning, what you've applied, and the results you've gotten. This isn't just for accountability, it's for motivation. Seeing your progress in black and white builds momentum like nothing else. Seventh, integrate feedback loops. Feedback is your compass. Without it, you could be sprinting in the wrong direction. Get mentors, peers, or even strangers to review your work. Test your skills in real-world situations and listen to the results. If your approach isn't producing, adjust. The blueprint isn't rigid. It evolves with each iteration. Eighth, anticipate plateaus. Every learning journey has moments where progress feels invisible. This is where most people quit. The blueprint mindset says, plateaus are part of the process. They're the quiet stretches where skills consolidate before the next breakthrough. When you hit one, double down on practice, seek new angles, or change your environment to spark growth. Finally, make it a lifestyle, not a phase. The self-education blueprint isn't a 30-day challenge. It's the way you live from now on. You keep refining it, upgrading it, and re-aiming it as your goals evolve. The top 1% don't stop learning once they hit a milestone. They shift the target higher and keep climbing. Let me give you a real-world picture. Imagine two designers start their careers at the same time. One just works on whatever projects come their way, Googles tutorials when stuck, and hopes to improve naturally. The other creates a blueprint, 6 months mastering typography, then 6 months mastering user interface design, then a year refining animation skills, all while building a portfolio and seeking targeted feedback. 3 years later, the first is decent, the second is elite, and charging triple the rate. That's not talent. That's blueprint execution. Here's your challenge. Take 30 minutes this week to sketch your self-education blueprint. Pick one skill to target for the next 90 days. Reverse engineer it from the experts. Decide how you'll learn, when you'll practice, and how you'll measure progress. Then lock it into your calendar. By the time those 90 days are up, you won't just know more. You'll be measurably better and already stacking the next skill on top. Because in the end, the people who look like overnight successes are usually just the ones who had a blueprint and followed it when everyone else was winging it. Learning in bursts is easy. Anyone can ride a wave of motivation for a week or two, binge books, watch courses, and feel like they're leveling up. But the 1%? They've figured out the real game. They turn personal growth into a daily operating system, something that runs every single day, whether they're in the mood or not, until improvement is no longer a special event, but the default setting of their life. Think about it. Your phone runs on an operating system. It doesn't decide each morning whether it will turn on. It just works. Your growth has to function the same way, automated, structured, and predictable, so you never fall back into the 99% cycle of stop-start progress. The foundation of your daily operating system is habit stacking. You don't rely on willpower alone. You build your learning and execution into routines that already exist. If you always drink coffee in the morning, attach a 15-minute learning session to it. If you always commute, attach a podcast or audiobook. This takes decision-making out of the equation. You're not choosing to grow. You're simply following your system. The second layer is non-negotiable minimums. A lot of people set huge, unrealistic goals for daily growth. Read 50 pages, watch an hour of training, do 3 new projects, and they burn out fast. The 1% set small, guaranteed wins that are so easy, they can't skip them. Read 2 pages, write 1 paragraph, review 1 note in the 1% notebook. Small minimums keep the system alive on the busiest, most chaotic days. Third, time blocking for high-value work. If your most important growth activity is deep work, learning a technical skill, writing, creating, you need a set time for it, ideally when your energy is highest. Protect this time the way you'd protect a meeting with your biggest client. This is where the compounding happens. Fourth, automation and triggers. Use reminders, apps, or even simple sticky notes in visible places to keep your system running. For example, a calendar alert that says, "Apply 1 new idea today," or a sticky note on your desk with your top 3 learning priorities for the week. These cues pull you back into the system before distractions take over. Fifth, feedback integration. Your daily operating system isn't static. Every week, review what worked and what didn't. Did your habits stick? Did you apply what you learned? Are you closer to your quarterly targets? This loop of review and adjustment keeps the system relevant and effective. But here's the most overlooked piece: energy management. Your system won't survive if you're running on fumes. Sleep, nutrition, and movement aren't just health tips. They are the infrastructure that allows your operating system to run without crashing. The 1% guard their energy like it's gold, because they know no amount of planning matters if you can't show up fully. Here's the beauty of this approach. Over time, the actions in your system stop feeling like extra effort and start feeling like baseline normal. Reading a few pages, applying a takeaway, reviewing your notebook, and tracking wins become as natural as brushing your teeth. That's when you know you've crossed into real growth territory, when improvement is so baked into your day that missing it feels wrong. Let's make it practical. Morning, 10 minutes of skill learning. 5 minutes reviewing your 1% notebook. During commute or chores, podcast or audiobook relevant to your target skill. Midday, quick application, send a pitch, practice a new technique, test a tool. Evening, 5 minutes logging what you learned, applied today, plus one idea for tomorrow. This simple flow adds up. 10 minutes a day is over 60 hours a year on one skill. 5 minutes reviewing notes daily is 30 hours a year, reinforcing your knowledge. Stack those numbers across multiple skills, and you see why the 1% seem unstoppable. They're not working harder in giant bursts. They're working consistently in micro-sprints. The 99% wait for the right time to focus on growth. The 1% know that time is never given. It's built into the day, brick by brick. Your daily operating system is your construction plan, and each habit is a brick. Miss enough bricks and the wall collapses. Keep stacking, and eventually, you're standing inside a fortress of skills, confidence, and results that no one can take from you. Your challenge: design your personal daily operating system tonight. Choose one habit you'll attach to your morning, one to your midday, and one to your evening. Keep them so simple you could do them on your busiest travel day. Run this system for 21 days straight. By the end, you won't just be learning more. You'll have rewired your default mode to be a growth machine. Because in the end, the 1% don't get ahead because they have more hours in the day. They get ahead because they've built a system where growth happens automatically, every single day. There's one final trait that sets the 1% apart from everyone else. Relentlessness. Not talent, not luck. Relentlessness. The refusal to coast. The refusal to stay satisfied. The refusal to accept good enough as the finish line. The 99% might build momentum for a while, but eventually they slow down. They get comfortable, distracted, or convinced that they've made it. The 1% never let themselves reach that point. They know that the second you stop pushing forward, the world starts pulling you backward. Relentlessness isn't about being frantic or burning yourself out. It's about carrying a constant, quiet urgency, a voice in your head that says, "What's my next step? Where can I sharpen the edge today?" You don't need fireworks or hype to keep going. You just need that steady, unshakable drive to stay in motion. This is why the 1% can endure challenges that crush others. A setback to them isn't a reason to stop. It's fuel. They understand that obstacles are part of the landscape. If they lose, they extract the lesson, adjust the blueprint, and get back in the fight. No drama, no excuses, just forward motion. Relentlessness also means protecting your standards. Once you've built a habit of growth, it's tempting to let it slide just this once. You skip one workout, one review session, one day of application, but relentlessness doesn't let that happen twice. One slip is human. 2 slips is a decision. The 1% refuse to make that decision. Another piece? Always raising the ceiling. When you hit a goal, you don't camp there. You use it as a launch pad. Finished learning a new skill? Great. Now combine it with another to create a new edge. Built a network? Great. Now deepen those relationships and add value to them. Earned more income? Great. Now reinvest it into bigger opportunities. Relentlessness is never satisfied with static success. There's a misconception that being relentless means living without joy. That's wrong. The relentless person enjoys the process more than the outcome. They know the chase, the climb, the building phase. That's where life feels alive. They're not obsessed with finally arriving somewhere, because they know there's always another summit beyond the next ridge. But here's the thing. Relentlessness doesn't happen by accident. You have to design it into your life. That means surrounding yourself with people who challenge you, not comfort you. It means setting public commitments that keep you accountable. It means tracking your progress so you can see the gap between where you are and where you want to be, and feel the pull to close it. One of the best ways to stay relentless is to keep a next targets list. No matter what you achieve, this list always has the next 3 milestones in sight. When you hit one, you replace it. This prevents you from drifting into celebration mode for too long. It keeps your eyes forward, your mind engaged, and your actions purposeful. You also need a reason bigger than yourself. People who quit easily often have goals that serve only their comfort or ego. The relentless have missions that tie to contribution, legacy, or a vision they can't let die. When your why is big enough, quitting doesn't feel like an option. So here's your final challenge. Pick one area of your life, career, health, skill development, relationships, and commit to a relentless pursuit for the next 12 months. No matter the setbacks, you keep moving. No matter the plateaus, you keep refining. And every time you're tempted to pause too long, remember, the edge is only sharp if you keep honing it. Because when you're relentless, you don't just stay ahead of the 99%. You make it impossible for them to catch up. So here we are. You've walked through the mindsets, systems, and actions that can take you from drifting in the 99% to moving with the 1%. You've seen the difference between passive learning and active application, between collecting ideas and turning them into a living blueprint, between chasing bursts of motivation and running a daily operating system that never stops. The truth? You already have what you need. The strategies in these sections aren't magic spells. They're levers. And the levers only work if you pull them. That's your job from here. To take the first lever, pull it hard, and keep going until it's second nature. Remember, the gap between you and where you want to be isn't closed by one grand gesture. It's closed by small, deliberate steps taken every single day. The morning note you write, the podcast you play instead of mindless noise, the decision to act on an idea within hours instead of shelving it for someday. Along the way, you will stumble. You will miss days. You will have moments where the 99% lifestyle, comfort, distraction, coasting, will call you back. That's when you come back to the core question. Do I want to lead or do I want to follow? If you choose to lead, you commit, not just in bursts, not just when it's easy, but relentlessly. You make your growth non-negotiable. You turn it into the default mode of your life. And before long, you'll notice something. The people you once admired from afar are now your peers. And the people still standing in place are watching you disappear over the horizon. So take what you've learned here and start today, now. Because the edge you build today is the one that keeps you ahead tomorrow.